Well, President Bola Tinubu says he will unify Nigeria's multiple exchange rate regimes to tackle the lingering forex crisis. Tinubu says this is part of his agenda for the next 4 years, as his administration seeks to bring the different exchange rate regimes across the country's FX channels under one single control. Well, Sulaiman here has that report.
Monetary policy. Do house cleaning, thorough house cleaning. It's necessary. The central bank must work towards a unified exchange rate.
That's Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu promising to unify the country's multiple exchange rate regimes, perhaps to tackle the lingering forex crisis. It is, however, not clear which of the channels will be the official exchange rate. Some Nigerians, even financial experts, have never understood Nigeria's exchange rate politics. They say it beats logic and economics. In Kenya, for instance, the rate has stayed at around 100 to 130 Kenyan shillings for more than 12 years now. At that time, the naira had been in free fall and lost value. In September of 2021, Nigeria's central bank accused Aboki FX, a website that collates the black market exchange rates of naira, of carrying out an illegal activity that undermines the economy. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said the publisher of Aboki FX, Mr. Adedotun, was involved in illegal forex trading.
We have been studying the activities of Aboki FX in the last 2.5 years. There was a particular time I asked our colleagues to call the so-called owner of Aboki FX. We find him as somebody, a Nigerian, who lives in England and conducts this nefarious and criminal activity on our economy. It is an economic sabotage and we will pursue him wherever he is.
The CBN, not done yet, decided to stop the dollar sales to Bureau de Change operators. In its place, it created an online platform that allows forex seekers through their banks to get the forex without many hassles. This hasn't done much good, as Nigerian banks and their staff have also been fingered in this unexplained forex deal. The BDCs run the rule on Nigeria's monetary policies. Everything happening is from them. What's their role in unifying the exchange rate? How will they be regulated? The government must identify those who are the instigators of Nigeria's current predicaments, regulate or phase them out. By unifying the exchange rates across businesses and transactions, what are the costs and benefits? How transparent will the government be? Will there be access points other than the ones that are very difficult to access now? Is the forex matter in Nigeria more of a racket than an economic-based fluctuation? These are questions that its answers may help push President Tinubu's drive to unify the country's multiple exchange rate regimes.
Well, economist Tope Fasua joins us now for more on this. Good to see you, and thanks for your time.
Good to see you.
You know, when people talk about, first, how many windows do we have?
To start with.
Yeah. Because there's been arguments amongst experts like yourself.
Well, it's difficult to say, really, but the central bank will tell you today that the main window is the investors and exporters window, I&E window, which gets traded very rapidly during the day, you know, oscillates within the day, and it's still closing around 461 as we speak. However, it seems like there's still a different rate for travel agents, for example. There may be a different rate for Nigerian customs that they use to work out your duty when you import things into the country, you know. There may be another rate, indeed, for BTA, PTA that the banks use as well. You know, it used to be worse. And I think this really started to be an issue in 2016 when we devalued from 199 officially to two rates to 306 for so-called official, which nobody could assess. Maybe, I don't know, maybe government people only. And then there was 360 for BTA, PTA. There was about 60 naira difference between the two, you know. And from that point on, there was a splintering of rates all over the place, you know. So I think that what the central bank has done over time is to try and unify into the I&E window. Okay, well, that's a traded window. It's very volatile during the day, but you can at least guess where the rates are going in that regard, you know. So to a large extent, the central bank, I think they are trying to unify the rates around the I&E traded window. However, one thing must be said. Every time we talk about unifying the rates, people think in terms of bringing the black market to be at par with the official rate. Now, that's a different ballgame entirely. The black market is so-called because it is black, and indeed, as the central bank governor said, indeed it is illegal. And there's a black market in every country. So perhaps what you would be able to achieve is to close that, you know, the difference between the two. About 20 years ago, it was like 3 naira, 2 naira, difference between the two, you know, 20, 25 years ago.
Right, so
perhaps
now,
15 years ago. But now we're talking about 300 and so on. It's ridiculous.
And that gap seems to be what experts say encourages round tripping and all kinds
Indeed,
of racketeering in the system. Help us understand more this unifying that you talk about.
So basically,
I mean, people are asking, will the parallel markets be crashed? Is that what it is?
Yes, you know, the government in general, it's not going to be just for the central bank alone, but of course, central bank has a major role in doing that to see what can be done. But they are going to also need a lot of government backing in order to bring that black market down to somewhere reasonable, where the arbitrage between the two will not be so much as to warrant someone taking money from the federal government or central, taking it abroad, bringing it back and all of that, making that spread. You want that spread to be thin such that it doesn't pay whoever wants to do that. So you're going to do several things. You know, why is that rate at 770 or thereabouts? So that means that maybe the central bank is not meeting the demands as quickly enough and as robustly enough. So it's got to be a carrot and stick approach. So the central bank may come to say, okay, you know what, maybe because we don't have, I mean, you know, our major export, our biggest import rather, in a given year is actually technology. All these gadgets we have and all of that. We import roughly $30 billion worth every year, you know, and all these gadgets, all this TV, and everybody depends on technology today. You can't escape it. The second biggest is petroleum import. So perhaps when the Dangote refinery, or the modular, they kick in, we are going to be saved that much money, about $15 billion in petroleum import, which we have to look for the dollars. And if we don't have to look for that dollars anymore, perhaps the central bank is going to have more leeway to intervene properly in legitimate transactions. You can even look at the 43 items that the central bank does not support for foreign exchange. You can decide that, okay, you know what, we will give you, but there's going to be a huge tariff on any of those goods. So we're going to take it out of maybe like the concept of banning foreign exchange on those goods to tariff, which the country is going to earn money on. So that is two. Number three, you're going to have to reform the bureau de change sector. So, you know, in a given country, the official sources for foreign exchange should be bureau de change and banks. And the central banks is somewhere in the background intervening silently. You know, so the BDC sector, we have about 6,300 licenses out officially, and about maybe 100,000 other people who are trading in that, you know, in that sector, in the BDC sector. Now, the BDC, that has to be pruned down. So perhaps they have to increase the capitalization for BDC so that they can operate properly. If you went to the UAE, for example,
operate properly,
you know, and they can also be able to do things like remittances. If you went to the UAE, some of the skyscrapers you see in Dubai downtown is owned by the BDCs, you know, UAE Exchange, Al Rostamani, Al Fadan, Al Ansari, all of those guys, you know, major companies. And they are corporately organized with good corporate governance in them. So it's going to be several. We don't need more than 100 of them, maximum. Well established with branches everywhere, doing remittance business, and also doing the foreign exchange business.
Let me bring you back to that phrase you use, you know, saying properly. Because when you go out, you see BDCs. And as you say, the difference is not that much. And, they operate in a very, you know, conducive environment. Now, is it that what President Bola Tinubu intends to do is to minimize or eliminate such arbitrage, because the US dollars is limited and it should only come to those who need them for productive services.
Productive, usually. Of course, you know, in any market you can't prevent speculators, arbitrageurs, hedgers, and of course people who really need transactions, who need that transaction. But however, you know, we've got a peculiar problem in Nigeria. I mean, I was in Kenya just last week. I went to a certain bank called I&M Bank, and I was able to withdraw dollars from the ATM. You know, I mean, you could withdraw $1,000 from the ATM. I was like, why are Kenyans not queued up here trying to empty this ATM? You know, but you see, I mean, that's not their focus. You know, people don't even use cash anymore in Kenya, even though you could withdraw 40,000 shillings at once, which is about 220,000 at once from the ATM. You know, but people aren't queuing on that. You know, I wrote an article which I pushed out today. Where's West Africa's M-Pesa? Everybody uses M-Pesa, you know, in and out and in and out. And you're just moving once you get registered and so on. So I like what you use. You talked about, you use the word like, minimizing the difference. You know, and that's the key. Now, there's an illusion that people are creating in the minds of people, especially financial markets people. The idea here is not to eliminate. There's nowhere where the rates are one. Like I said, the I&E is traded within a day. Sometimes the I&E oscillates between 410, and I saw a trade today that was up to 704 for 2025 transactions. Okay, today we're in 2023. For 2025, somebody is actually offering 703, 704. Now, that's maybe an indication of where rates are going, but it may not also go there, you know, eventually. But in a given day, there's that oscillation within the same shop. Okay, one day in a given shop, maybe a BDC, you can get different rates there.
And now you're talking about your Kenya example. Let me bring in this. Is this also going to be possible for the president to have a conversation with other AU brothers, you know, and sisters, the sister presidents? Because there's no African country that has the same currency. All 54 of them. Different currency.
Apart from the CFA region, the Francophone, which unfortunately is not even funny for them. None of them have their central banks. Their central bank is maybe France. They keep their reserves in France. They're treated, unfortunately, like babies.
And there were times
when they need to, borrow money, they get charged on their reserves by the France central bank. You know, so we've tried in West Africa. But, you know, it's becoming a bit vitiated now. People are moving to e-currencies and what have you. You know, so at some point we were working on the eco currency. And at some point, Wahua and so on. Wahua, we moved to eco. And then the French president came and met Ouattara in Côte d'Ivoire. And they wanted to adopt the name eco for what is currently the CFA. And we had to protest and say, no, you can't, this is our copyright and so on. You know, they almost got away with it. So we've used that, but now the dynamics are different. When cryptocurrencies came on the scene, and it was going to be a challenge to fiat banking, which is, you know, the normal central banking. That was, you know, because when they talk about cryptocurrency, they talk about decentralized banking. That means removing central banks from banking. So central banks had to start waking up to say, guys, what do we do? And so the concept of CBDC, central bank digital currencies, came up. Now the focus is on digitized currency. How do we digitize everything? So we're not thinking about, but yeah, of course. But I think, Sulai, that West Africa has a lot to learn from what's going on in East Africa. Because with this same M-Pesa thing I'm talking about, you could send money all over East Africa, to Burundi, to Rwanda, and so on, and down to South Africa, to Zambia, to Botswana, and even to Bangladesh and Pakistan. I was shocked. And so if all you need is somebody's phone number who's registered, and I could send you up to 200,000 Kenyan shillings, which if you convert it is maybe, we're talking about 1.2 million or so. Yeah, about 1.2 million. I could send to you in any currency. So the focus here is on unifying the rates.
Is it possible?
People should not be looking at a single rate, because like I said, within the same bank you can get two different rates.
But can the president do that?
But we're talking about a tight band.
Is it possible?
Yeah, the president can absolutely do that. But it takes focus, and of course at some point in time you have to also crack down on people selling Forex by the roadside. That's not right. Every BDC transaction should have a receipt, and you should get some documentation. That is how it's done, even if it's for $100. Get some documentation, even if it's a phone number, maybe their license number, and a copy of their license. Things must be done. I think we can get it done in this country.
Yes, we can. If it's done elsewhere, why can't we do it here? Tope Fasua, we could spend all night talking about this.
Thank you.
No boring moments. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. you.